All right, well, welcome back, everybody. We have our first speaker with us. This is Liselotte Lyngsø. She's a futurist and founder of Future Navigator. So Liselotte, she works extensively with scenarios for future innovation, technologies, megatrends that have consequences for how we work, feel, and behave. Founding partner of Future Navigator. You're on demand, you're a keynote speaker. You were talking yesterday in Aalborg, but you travel around the world, don't you?
I used to.
You used to. Well, of course, now things are slightly different. Got here that your big passion in life is to train people to visualize the future. And I think that's where I want to start, right? Because when you hear futurist and being a future thinker, I don't know what that is. I mean, so could you just give us an insight? Tell us about what this job is and what does it mean?
Well, I had no idea I was going to be a futurist. I actually studied economics, politics, and society at University of Oxford. I wrote my thesis on the principle of subsidiarity, that you had to make decisions closer to the citizens. And that brought me to the European Commission because they had a futurist think tank called Forward Studies Unit. And they had the law, who had very strong opinions about how the European Union should go. But when I got there, it was Santerre, my new boss, and he said, no. We don't have a democratic mandate, so we have to make future scenarios for European integration. And that was my first job, and that was all the way back in '96, I think. And I asked the different member states of how much they would pay for enlargement to Eastern Europe. And then we made these scenarios, and that was called Scenarios 2010. And I'm very proud to say that in one of the scenarios, we predicted Brexit. Okay. And now, finally, it's happening, Peter.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, it was predictable at some point, right?
It was. But still. Well, already back then, you could actually see the future coming because you could see that the British people were like, what do we need the European Union for? Why do we need to be collaborating with the losers of the Second World War? We have our global output, our financial headquarters in London. We're in it for the money. And this is actually the very important point I want to give you guys, because that's a futurist mindset is not about leaning back and say, hey, I told you so, Brexit, now it's happening. It's really about being proactive, saying, okay, we can see that they certainly have a problem obtaining this European identity. Let's do something to get this collaborative approach going in Europe. So you had all the warning signs, all the warning lamps, and this is really what you want to use the future for. Pull it back into the present and then adjust and get ready to do new stuff. And that's why I'm so happy to be a part of opening today, because I think before I die, I really hope to democratize future studies. And it's something that everybody can do. And I think it's really, really important for the people entering the workforce right now, because so many people are scared. We have COVID-19. We hear about businesses saying we'll have machine learning, the robots are coming, and you are standing there almost paralyzed. Will there be room for me? You know, will there even be room for me at the labor market? I'm newly educated, but if everybody's working at home, I don't have the access to all this silent knowledge. What can I do? And here I think future studies is a fantastic method to look at, hey, there'll be plenty of stuff to do. Because it's not about the things that we used to do, it's about all the new problems and challenges that are coming.
Yeah, okay, so but how did you go from working with the commission and doing these future studies to founding this company and having it as your primary?
Yes.
So I think that's something we want to hear today a lot, is
well,
journeys, right?
Then it gets really personal. Because, okay, now you get the full story, the nasty one. I moved to Copenhagen. I found my husband. He was studying medicine, so I thought, we can travel all around the world. But no, he's still working in a hospital. Anyway, I then started working at the Copenhagen Institute for Future Studies. I worked at IKEA. And I think the reason I prepared so well to be a founder and a startup was really that I was in charge of finding the clients, running the projects, and then sending the bill afterwards. So I had the whole food chain in the business, so it wasn't that hard for me. But the trigger point was quite crazy. I came home one morning from a presentation, and I found my husband in bed with a nanny.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I thought, oh my God. And I moved out. I rented a house with my 3 kids. The youngest one was only 6 months. And I resigned as a director at the Copenhagen Institute. And I started my own business together with some co-partners at the time, because I realized if I had to combine my business and my career with having kids and being in charge myself, I had to have full control. And at the time, we were 3 women, I think, at the Copenhagen Institute and 40 guys. And these guys, they never delivered for the deadline. So I would have clients at 9 o'clock the next morning, and at 4 o'clock in the morning, they still hadn't delivered. Anders, you know who you are. Anyway, then I said, okay, so the best thing I can do is actually this. And then I put money aside. So as soon I had 3 months of salary put aside, I had these fuck you money, so I could say no to jobs and I could stick to my deadlines. And that has helped me through ever since. So for me, being an entrepreneur has actually been quite the opposite to all what the guys are saying. And then you have to work till you're bleeding and skip your night's sleep. I had the exact opposite. I did it in order to get control, and I did it in order to pick my own clients, and I did it in order to work with the people that I needed. And I always had the saying that I'm working together with the whole world. They are all employed in my business. They just don't know yet. Yeah. So that was a different approach.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy I did that, because I visit businesses all the time, and I haven't been to a single one where I wanted to swap. Okay. You know, it's true. I had a really busy day yesterday, being in Kolding and Aalborg. But the fact that I can just wake up and go for an hour this morning with my dog is such a luxury. Yeah. You know, I don't owe anybody anything besides from my family.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do miss that. I miss having my own working hours. I have to say, going in at work from 9 till 3 doesn't suit me super well. But no. I do it anyway. Don't worry, Hella. I love my job.
That was a very personal intro.
No, but that's great. I think that's what we're here for. You know, we want some journeys. We want some insights, right? But you know, we can swap back over to some of the more insights, right? Because I think
I forgave my ex-husband, by the way.
Of course, so. Yeah. I mean, we can't escape the fact that we're doing this digitally because of COVID. We can't be all here together, and it doesn't. You know, COVID doesn't just mean that we have to do virtual conferences. You know, we can't travel. We can't do a lot of things. Businesses seem to be failing all over the place. You know, it's a very uncertain time. And yet you think that using this futurist mindset that there are some opportunities that this moment presents us, and you're going to take us through some of these sort of main mega trends.
I've actually just published a book during this time, scenarios and opportunities in a post-pandemic future, and there are a lot of opportunities at this point in time, because I'll get into 3 main drivers where I think entrepreneurs has a chance out of the ordinaries to create fantastic stuff. One is the fact that we're getting a hybrid workforce, so that big businesses at the moment say that people can work from home 40% of the time. They're doing that in order to reduce congestion in the roads, in order to save square meters at their big headquarters. And they're doing it because there was a lot of young people already, according to Forbes magazine, who said, well, if I have to work with you guys in the future, I need to be able to choose when, where, and how I'm going to work. I don't want to be a time slave. So it's this win-win-win.
I'm staying here. Sorry.
Is it okay? Yeah. It's this win-win-win, creating these opportunities all the way around. So right now, this hybrid workforce, it's not about you're sitting at the desk and now you're sitting at a desk at home. It's really setting people and businesses free. And that's where it's getting very interesting to be an entrepreneur, because these people, they are suddenly becoming very intentional about what sort of work activity do I have to do right now? What sort of value do I need to create? Then I might not want to work with the 3 guys sitting in my office every day. Maybe I should put my team together with entrepreneurs, with researchers, with other businesses. So more and more people are having this entrepreneurial way of organizing their everyday life. And that's a fantastic chance to get in. Also, there are a lot of these big businesses, they don't use their square meters right now. So you could sit there, you can go and find synergy out there with existing businesses and say, hey, would you mind that I sit and try to do my startup with you guys? Because I think we have some synergy here, and I know you have some free square meters. So this huge change going on. There is a little bit of a problem with that as well, as I said to you, Peter, because a lot of people are working at home, and they have to be careful that they are not getting these narrow bands on, and they think they're doing really well, and they want to sort everything themselves. So the big challenge is that when you wake up in the morning, you have to go out and find all the resources that you need, and you have to be really humble that you can't do everything yourself.
Yeah.
And that's really where you have an opportunity now to get the people you want, because they're also at home. You can call them, you can contact them. They have more free time than they ever did before. I spoke to a high school teacher the other day. He said, yeah, I'm inviting all these resources into the school class because they're just sitting at home and everybody wants to talk to my students for an hour. So I just Zoom them in, and that has really heightened our level of education.
Amazing.
So again, finding that crisis and saying, so there's a lot of cracks and openings coming in here.
Yeah.
But what we see as a more general aspect is that some people are binging, they are getting fearful, they're getting scared, they're getting paralyzed. Other people are getting more active in putting together these bricks of the puzzle than they have ever before.
Okay.
Our local community is going to be much more interesting to us because we will spend more time at home. And there it's really interesting to try and do some matchmaking. Who is actually near me, who has some of the competences that I need. Yeah. We will have a whole bunch of popping up office spaces right now. Yeah. And I think what is really interesting here is that it used to be a huge advantage to sit at the headquarters because they had all the access and all the resources. You can have almost the same in these pop-up offices that are coming right now. And where it used to be only one poor entrepreneur meeting with another poor entrepreneurs, we see the big companies like the big financial institution, Novo Nordisk, and the others, they are starting to send their employees in there as well. Yeah. So we're going to have a great combination of established businesses meeting entrepreneurs.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's one trend.
Okay,
I have three.
Go. Trend number 2. Let's hear all about it. Go on.
So do you agree? That's an opportunity?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. The second one is that we have the opportunity to tap into a global brain. Yeah. And what I'm talking about there is during COVID-19, we are moving from asking people what they do to this data monitorization. You can listen to my voice and you can actually hear whether I'm infected with COVID-19, whether I'm about to develop a depression. Our whole ability to read people and to do this pattern recognition is lifting science, is lifting businesses like never before. COVID-19 has in many ways accelerated this digitalization like crazy. And here it's really about augmenting, lifting what we already know. So I spoke to a doctor. He says, well, with skin cancer, I have 15 years of experience, but this pattern recognition, they give me some input as to what also to look for. So it's not putting me out of a job, but it's making me much more competent in what I do. And here I really look at entrepreneurs who are able to tap into this global brain of knowledge, and entrepreneurs who say, I'm going to fix the whole thing themselves. And there it's really, really important to tap into a flow of constant innovation, feedback, and knowledge, rather than sticking to your own guns. And it's getting much more easy because information is shared. We see with the hunt for the vaccine right now, it's so important that science work together with businesses. In Oxford, they actually had their vaccine, these students, and they didn't have a business to work with who can distribute and who can make sure that it's democratized to people. So they're struggling so hard to find that kind. So finding a global brain that can leverage. So when you think of entrepreneurship, you should think of scaling it immediately. So I've started fairly late because now my kids are a little older, but how do you scale your business? How do you think global from the outset? And how do you tap into this global brain? One thing that
go on.
One thing I think is really cool with these data points is that we start having some insights on what get the best out of people. For a long time, we have been measuring so much on economic performance. But when we look at performance all around, your ability to build network, your ability to get a nice husband, your ability to have sweet children, your ability to do well on your education, you call it a well-being budget. And they're actually doing that in New Zealand right now because you get all these data points. And I think that has really created a huge transformation, which is happening right now. And it means that, for instance, if you invest in the psychological well-being of people, loneliness, depression, I cannot do this on my own, that's the best investment you can do. So rather than seeing that as an expense, something you have to pay for, you can see there's a huge return on investment. These kinds of interesting calculations are so cool. We have it right now in Denmark, where we have people calculating that if you take your bike, then per kilometer you ride your bike, you earn the government €2 or 12 kroner, and that's really cool. So you go there, and the reason you earn it is because you reduce pollution, you reduce congestion, you do something for your health so you won't need to go to hospital. So you have this winning all the way around, and I would just love the entrepreneurs that are coming into business now, having this intentional approach where they think, can I think in a well-being budget as opposed to this narrow economic growth? That is really something that the world is needing, and we haven't been able to do it before because the calculations were too complex, but now there is no excuse.
Yeah. So third trend.
Third trend. Yeah. Thanks for keeping me on track. The final trend is exactly about that. It's about who is going to be the heroes in this Corona COVID-19 future, who is going to be the crooks. And if we look at the change that is actually going on, it's before COVID-19 we saw X Factor. I don't know what it's called.
I think it's X Factor.
X Factor all around, yes. But in our Danish popular X Factor host was called Blackman, and he was like, "Oh, you are in, Peter. Andreas, you are out." You know, and that is so yesterday. Today we are in it together, apart, all against one. So the whole cultural scene has changed. So heroes today are the ones helping each other, who are actually taking care of society, who's having the long-term view on. And I think that is really key, because we could right now, we're looking at the election right now in the US with two old farts struggling. You know, we could have a huge generation struggle coming on here if young people are not invited into the labor market. They're seeing unemployment. Well, that could mean that they are starting a parallel world of entrepreneurship, where they say, well, let's give up the old world. We're seeing it with Black Lives Matters, with the Me Too movement, which is very much about identity politics. And I love the thing that Andrea said in the beginning. It's about we're moving into an age of intention. What is your long-term intention of what you're doing? And that is a fairly recent thing. I'll give you another personal example.
Let's hear it.
My daughter, she was in Berlin, and she was going into a nightclub, and this guy in the doorman, he took her on the stomach, and she was like, "Hey, can I speak to your boss? You know, we shouldn't have a guy standing there taking all the women's on their stomach and the bum." And she was arguing with them for 4 hours with all her girlfriends. And I was like, why didn't you just go out and have a great time? You know, why do you spend your life? And she's like, but it's for the next women. It's for the women coming after me. I have to, you know, make the difference right now. And my other daughter, she refused to put her picture in her application for her engineering job, because she said, I don't want to be selected on gender or pictures, you know, it's my content, it's what I... So you have these strifes going on. And then I spoke to, I think there were 500 young kids from 13 to 16. They were all in Copenhagen back in November, 1 year from now, representing different countries. And they were sitting, they said, we're going to make this green LinkedIn. We're going to make this LinkedIn that whoever is living up to the United Nations sustainability goals, they are going into our database. Okay. And these companies are going to be the ones where we will share our data. They are the companies that we're going to work with. They are the companies that we're going to buy products from. The rest, we don't want to see you. We don't want to have anything to do with you. So it was very radical. And I was like, what's going on? Yeah. You need to find a slow way of... And they said, we don't have time for this, Now we are helping out with COVID-19. We are helping out with financial crisis. We are solving the environmental problem here. Yeah. And if you are not, having the long perspective together with us, sorry, we don't have time for you. So I really believe that we're moving into this age of intention. So you start asking people, so what is your intention?
Interesting. I liked what you were talking about it being about collaboration, that the winners are going to be those who work together. And yet, obviously, it's a problem when you're working solo and you've got your own business. It's harder to develop, right? You're on your own. You're not around other things. Also, if you work in a big business, very often, there's money for professional development. You're sparring with your colleagues. So tell me, how in your journey did you start to build... start to get that inspiration and that sort of that sparring that you needed? What was the process that you went about for that?
To be quite honest, I think I have stayed more fresh, more mobile because I've been having my own business. I actually find that I even spoke to a director of the innovation area in a big organization who had been fired and who didn't know what to do. He couldn't even call himself a cap. He couldn't do anything because he'd just been plug and play into this little functionality. And as an entrepreneur, you are all around and you become very conscientious about what is creating value. You have the 80-20 model. So, just spend time on what is giving you the 80% and then move out. And I think it's a huge advantage that you're not tapping into the same people every day. That can very easily hold you back. Rather, you say, who would be the best person for solving this challenge? And of course, you do develop very solid and strong network with some specific people over time who you trust and who you care for. But sometimes it's much more interesting to work together with other people. They are a little more expensive, but they have market value. And I really have seen it as a huge advantage.
But outside of work, right? Let's say that you just need to get some fresh perspectives. Who do you go to? Where do you go to sort of learn about what's going on and share thoughts and ideas? Did you have a go-to? Do you have networks, or what do you do? I really think it has never been so great to be a futurist. So during this time of COVID shutdown, I finally had a time to talk to my futurist colleagues, and we managed to write this book together. But I have Google alerts. I have my Evernote system, and then I have different business areas. I'm looking in for transformation. I have a collaboration with the Copenhagen Institute, who are talking to all the scientists in the world who's trying to give us an early warning of when is the future arriving. So when will we finally have lab-grown meat in the stores at a price which is much lower? So when we not just kill the minks, but the cows. No, but... So trying to have those, and that's a very important part of my job. And then I have an app where I co-create the future, so it's called Trend Navigator. So I never work with businesses without asking them to spot the future together with me. So I'm having the automobile business on Monday, and I just had great insights for those guys. Excellent.
Because a lot of people, they actually know what the future is going to be in their own field, but it's really hard for them to combine it with the fact that, hey, people are not needing to go on the streets anymore. Are they not? That will be shocking for them. The rest of us, we stay home now. Absolutely. Or whatever. So the future already exists. It's just about going out there to get it.
Well, I think you make it sound really easy. You've been doing it for so long that you think, okay, this is an approach that all of us could do. I mean, but futurism to me, it seems to be sort of I wouldn't know where to get started. So if you're a student and you want to take this sort of this futurist mindset, right? What are the first steps that you can take to sort of start adopting this futurist mindset?
So there are so many gadgets and new things coming all the time, and that can be extremely overwhelming. So my first thing I do is, like if you put a stone in the water, you try to find out how many ways will that create? How much of a transformation? What is the transformational power? If there's a huge transformation, that's where you should go in and say, and then what, and then what? So already in January, I had a course with people wanting to become a futurist, and I showed them one picture of the Danish or the Chinese flag where you had the coronavirus. Do you remember that? Jyllandsposten, I think, put it in. Yeah. And then I had another picture of factories closing down in Wuhan due to the coronavirus. And I wrote, huge economic recession ahead. And I asked them, so which one of these two scenarios is going to have the big transformative power? And they all said...
Something is happening. Someone is in our stream and trying to figure out what's happening. But you're actually not on right now.
But are you still taping it or not?
We are taping, but give us a few minutes. We'll figure out what's happening, and then we need to go live again.
Fine.
Where did you lose us?
1 minute ago.
Okay.
I think it will take you back to the start of that question, basically.
Yeah, which was? The transformation power. I think that's cool.
So how can having a futurist mindset, and how do people develop a futurist mindset? So we'll just, if anybody is watching right now, maybe they are, maybe they aren't, I'm not sure. Who knows? We think we've got some technical problems we're waiting to hear from. And if there are no technical problems, maybe write a tweet or...
It's very typical that you have technical problems when talking about the future.
That's it, right?
It's kind of nemesis.
Yeah. Okay, are we on again? Fantastic. Okay, well, maybe some of you might have noticed there was a little bit of a technical break right there. But no problems, we're back on, I think. And so we're just going to go back to the question that Liselotte was starting on.
So how do you work as a futurist?
Yeah, so tell us, what is... How do you get started with futurism and thinking like having this futurist mindset, and what can it give students? Yeah.
First of all, you have to look for not status quo and what is disappearing, but transformation, new waves entering society, which is going to change the way we live, interact, do business. That's when your alarm clock should go, wait, here is my future business opportunity, rather than this is scary. So I had some people on a course in January, 27th of January to be precise. I had two scenarios. One, because that day in the newspaper you had the Chinese flag. It had been reinvented with COVID-19 bacteria. And the other scenario, which was that we're now entering a huge economic recession. Factories are closing down in Wuhan. And I asked these people doing this futurist course with me, so which one is going to have this big transformation power where the water is really changing, the waves are changing? And they all said, the Chinese flag, First of all, it's about me, it's about Denmark. China has finally noticed Denmark. It's like the Muhammad drawings, like we have right now, actually coming from France. So it was a very emotional thing. And I couldn't get them to talk about the Wuhan and the economic recession. And I actually spoke to one of them in Kolding yesterday, and he was like, we should have listened more carefully. Yeah. And so I guess that's where the futurist part come in, because then you have to say, okay, so if this is happening, how am I going to reorganize my business?
But why do you think that they didn't? Why do you think that they were?
Because they keep looking to the past and saying, I have this queue and I have that queue, so I know how we deal with the Muhammad drawings, so that's easier for me. Okay. So moving out to this pattern of unknown, I think one very important thing, you shouldn't do it alone, because it's really scary, because you have to move out of your comfort zone. For sure, you don't have the competences at the moment. So that's really where you need to go into a dialogue with other people, saying, so what might come out of this? So let me give you another example. I had, during this American election, we have all this discussion of deep fake videos. They can record my face, and afterwards CBS can, get me to say anything I didn't say, just using this video recording, basically. And I think, interesting, exciting. That's rule number one. When you want to work as a futurist, you always say, interesting, exciting. Please repeat after me. Interesting, exciting. You put your hands into it. Interesting, exciting. Not whether it's good or not with these deep fakes.
Yeah.
You just say, okay, so where can I get the app? Where can I play around with it? Because it is gonna come no matter what. And then I realized this is fantastic, I can film myself in the afternoon when I have nice hair, nice makeup, and I just put that video on when I speak to Australia at 7 o'clock in the morning. I always seem really bright and alert. So I had another thing with these chatbots coming where I'm like, oh, what will happen? We'll have a feedback crisis with Amazon and chatbots. We won't search anymore using Google's. In 2023, everybody's going to talk to these bots rather than talking to people. We'll have a feedback crisis. And I speak to this business in Australia who's actually doing these chatbots, and they say, you're completely wrong. This is so interesting, exciting. We're moving into India now. A lot of people can't write in India. Suddenly we are democratizing information and studies for them. So, the future has many opportunities. Again, it's the intention that is so important. What is your intention when you look into the future? Then say interesting, exciting. Don't go there on your own. You need to have somebody holding on to you to feel secure. And but then this is where the future business lies. So.
I mean, it sounds like you're saying the future is coming no matter what. Other people might say, the robots are coming. We need to have a basic income for everybody because there are not going to be enough jobs. And I hear from you, there's always going to be new opportunities. Robots will come in and they'll write the short news stories. That news journalist writer, he can do something even better, right? So that's an interesting perspective, right? There's always opportunity and change.
We are held back by the fact that we're always double scared of what we're going to lose compared to what we're going to get. So I'll give you an example.
Loss aversion.
Yeah, exactly. So Edward Budding, he, I don't know who he, do you know who he was?
No idea.
No. Okay. He actually created the lawnmower.
Okay.
Before his existence, people were cutting grass, maybe 10 people to cut a field of grass. And people said, oh no, now Edward Budding is creating this lawnmower. What are we going to do with all the people who are cutting the grass? And they didn't have the imaginative power to say, hey, we're going to use that for lawns for football, for soccer, for golf, for tennis. We'll have our Wimbledon. There are so many people employed in the grass business today. It's much, much bigger than the years before when people were cutting grass, like this. And that's a whole point. We don't have the imagination that we're going to have so many longings, so many needs, and we will still need the human touch in the future. So you need to take whatever technologies are out there, but make sure that you understand that we'll have so many opportunities coming into this. So just looking at this working apart together situation, so crazy that we can't have eye contact at Zoom. When is somebody fixing that, There are so many things. So as soon as we do something new, it's like the Hydra's hit. 10 new business opportunities are emerging. I'll leave you an article with new jobs that you could take on.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be great to share. We're just in our last minute. We're going to end in about 50 seconds. In this last 45 seconds, if you had somebody who was thinking, I'm either going to get a job with Novo or I'm going to go out and create my own job, what would you say to them? What would be the number one thing that you'd ask them to consider?
I would say do both. And make sure you have the right intention. Try to think about, so where would I like to see myself? What do I like doing? And where is there are new opportunities? Go for these transformations in societies, because whenever we change our behavior, there are new cracks and new business opportunities opening. And if you are in any doubt, I can't give one answer to everybody. I think we will have a society where one size will not fit all. We have a lot of different sizes. We'll have hybrid workforces. So it's going to be fantastic if you put yourself into it, if you have your own intentions, and then be very good at asking for help. That's the number one good advice.
So ask for help. Go out there, find your peers. Thank you so much, Liselotte. It was fantastic, so interesting. And now we're going to go on a little break. We'll be back in about 5 minutes, I think. We'll see you all then.